I don't know if I want to be at the table at the Greenleaf family, but I want to be a fly on the wall, definitely. Let me get all my stuff here. All right, so we've got some fun people to talk about this amazing show. You guys are going to have so much fun tonight. First up, she plays Grace Greenleaf, Merle Dandridge. She plays Mavis McCready, Oprah Winfrey. She plays Lady Mae Greenleaf, Lynn Whitfield. And last but not least, Bishop James Greenleaf, Keith David. Welcome. Hey. So nice. So nice. All right, let's sit. Thank you for that. I was so excited I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jim Halterman. I'm the West Coast Bureau Chief of TV Guide Magazine. And I'm as excited as y'all, so we're here. So the show is Greenleaf, and Oprah, of course, the obvious, Craig Wright created the show. Talk about the early development of it and what your goals were with it as far as how it fit into the network and everything.
Our goal was to get this kind of response. Our goal was...
Jalapeno.
Our goal was to tell a realistic story about a family that was in the business of church and had their own sins and dysfunctions, as all families do, and to honor the space of the community of church and the role that it plays in these characters' lives and in our viewers' lives, and to do that in such a way that everybody watching could see a little piece of themselves sitting around that table. Everybody has seen a little piece of somebody at that table in their own life. And so, first and foremost, I see myself, even in the 25 years of the Oprah show, every day, telling stories, using the platform to share ideas and ways of being in the world that help people to see themselves better. So I think we accomplished that with Greenleaf. Thank you.
Well, obviously, the cast is amazing from top to bottom. How challenging was casting all these amazing roles?
What's important to me always, because I've seen this just as a viewer over the years, and you all have seen it too when you look at films or television shows, in particular with black families. White people, y'all can have anybody you want in your family. But there's a certain order of coloration things that happen that when we're watching and we say, there ain't no way they had that child. No way that can be her daddy. Unless the mama was somebody else. So it was very important. There's a whole color thing. Very much. So it was very important for all of us who were a part of making this come together that the family actually looked like a family. And it's one of the reasons why early on, Craig Wright was saying that the storyline would reveal that perhaps the bishop and I had had an affair and that Merle was our love child. Go, ain't no way, me and him made that child. That did not happen. That could not happen. They could make that baby, but we could not make that baby. So forget that storyline. That ain't happening. So, it's important for people to not only physically gel, but to also have a connection. So as we're looking at everybody, we're just hoping that when we sit everybody down at that table, which happened to be the very first day and first scene that was shot, that it's going to work. And it did. It did, yeah.
Well, I want to get to that soon, but first, Merle, talk about the casting process for you when you came into this. I mean, the show starts on your face, and we see this world through your eyes first. Talk about how you prepared or how you just even came to get the role.
It was a little bit of a shift of thinking for me to, from being, I had a lot of years on the stage and, I was a leading lady on Broadway, and then in television and film, I'd been mostly the sidekick or the best friend. And to transition to being in the middle of the story and letting it kind of flow through me, it was a shift. It was a different way of thinking, and it was a process that I really had to just kind of let myself give over to. But as far as coming into the role, you've had those experiences that were just so arduous, and the casting process can be really, really tough. And this one just felt so organic and in the flow and right. From the moment that I read the script, I was like, I know this. I know it. And I didn't even usually I'm struggling with the words, shove them in my head, and they just came. They were there, and I knew her right off intuitively. And I think those things kind of show themselves. And it was the right time, it was the right role, and it was the right thing. And I'm so glad that it came in this time in my life when I was ready for it.
Well, and if you've watched the whole season, which I have, this is just the starting point. There's so much good stuff coming. But how much, for any of you, how much did you have to know going in? I don't know if you had seen the whole season or you just knew the first couple scripts. Talk about how much you needed to know just for your own process as far as backstory, and there's so much that goes on in this family and the show.
Well, this has been a blessing, because the first day that we all sat, not to shoot, but to have the cast dinner, and we were all nervous, we were starting in like 4 days or something, and Oprah said, this is a collaboration. We want to hear from you. We want to build these people. We want them to be, the speech was, it made us all, we were almost in tears, because as actors, who says, look, come and talk to us, and you have it like,
and means it.
Actually means it. No, this was like, so, and we kind of were pinching each other, because you get the script, it is the part, and that's it. And we were able to help build our characters, and ask Craig hard questions, and just discuss things.
To the writers,
and speak to the right. I mean, honestly, it is amazing how she's building this story with Craig and allowing us to really discover the truth of our characters and come up with it. And so it's just great. And Craig is very receptive as well. And you haven't seen, but there was one, well, we won't spoil it for you, but one scene, Oprah just said, you know what, no, it needs to be this scene. And they wrote it that day, and then we had it overnight, and then we shot it the next day.
It's a scene with the two of us. We were ending the season, and we hadn't been together. And I said,
in the whole piece,
we'd gone through 13 episodes, and we weren't together. So I get there for the 13th episode, and something else is happening. I go, hello. Somebody in the writer's room. Hello, Craig. Y'all need to write us a scene. I'll be in my trailer.
See, now she can, and I mean,
write us a scene.
It was
I'll
some
be waiting.
favorite pitch right
going
on.
Yes. But I will say this: you know how you look at a script and it feels like you, or sometimes it doesn't feel like you. So when Craig and I first started this notion of creating a series based on the black church, because he said he was a preacher, and I said, in a black church? And he said, no, is there a difference? I go, oh, yes. Yes, Lord. There is. And I saw this first draft, and he said, I was hoping that you, and there was no Mavis, and he says, I was hoping that you would, be willing to look at this role and look at Lady Mae. And as I read it, when the first line sowing the seeds of discord in the fields of my peace, honey. I said, those are not my words. Those are Lynn Whitfield's words. There's only one person who can do this, and that's Lynn Whitfield.
She gave me this gift.
I said, there's only one person who can do it. Those shouldn't come out of my mouth. That should come out of Lynn's mouth. That is written and designed for her. I can only see her face. I can hear her voice. And I felt the same way about Keith. Before I knew anything, I wanted Keith. They were saying, well, he's very busy. It's very busy, it's very busy.
Not that busy.
I know, right? Well, I want to go back. I do want to talk about the dinner scene because it's such an amazing scene, and I think the first time I saw it, I didn't know it was the first scene you guys shot. Was that beneficial to get into it so quickly, like your first day of shooting, and just there's so many things going on in that scene? Whoever wants to talk.
It was really wonderfully dynamic in the sense that all the family dynamics that unfold later, you see reflected in that first scene. And of course, we didn't, we were, as Merle said, we were all a little nervous and getting to know each other. But that is a dynamic in the moment itself as the family is getting together. This is the first time, it's a grieving, and so we are, in that sense, feeling each other out. And so it really worked wonderfully. Who knew it would do that? But between Oprah and Craig and the team, they knew something that we didn't, that about how that might work.
But I have to say that when everybody sat down, it's long table, and Clement found this amazing house, and the chandeliers are all there, the whole thing, and we started and looked down the table, and I could just see each and every character. We didn't know exactly where everything was going to go, but even in that scene, what's so powerful about it is that everybody wants something. Everybody has something going on that they're not saying, at the end of like going through the scene, like one time, we were so excited. Because we knew that it was very, very special. It was such a special thing we were doing.
I was there, even though I wasn't in the scene. I was there that first day, and I remember when you did, "This is not Arizona." I was at the monitor. I was going, "Yes, Liz!"
She screamed.
Could you hear me screaming at the monitor?
The Oprah, yes! 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 Amazing.
Well, and I feel like as a viewer, I don't know if you guys felt this, but when you see that scene, that's almost when, as a viewer, you're locked in, because you're like, I've sat at that table. Not that table, but we all have families, and we sit there, and there's so much stuff going on.
That was the throwdown. Yeah, at the table, yes.
Merle, talk about your part in that scene, because you haven't been at that table for a long time. The character hasn't. Mm-hmm. Talk about how you approach that, because you're all of a sudden, everything's alive again with that family when you sit down.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's really brave and courageous to write a television scene that is that long. That
13 pages.
Yes, that they were courageous enough to even do that. Exactly, and you don't get those kinds of opportunities to do these beautiful long scenes where you just sit in it and you can just feel everything marinate and stir. And the fact that I'm sitting next to the amazing Greg Allen Williams, Mac, I was so opposed to her sitting down next to the man, but when you get in those situations, when you go home, you fall into your particular place in the puzzle. You just fall right into
In the
it.
family dynamic.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
everybody does.
Whether you've gone off and you've become Supreme Court justice, whatever you've done with your amazing life, you come back, you're still that person. And I thought that was really beautifully done. So we all are very. I think we've all had those experiences coming home, so it wasn't hard to play. And with such incredible actors at the table, I just had to be present, listen, and volley it back. It was also a great opportunity for us as actors to set the tone for how we were going to show up for each other and be there for each other, and what kind of excellence we were going to bring the entire season. And that was thrilling. When you get in a room like that with fellow actors, and you're like, oh, yes, this is what it is. It was so much fun. So that was the perfect way to start the season.
Can we give props to Gregory Allen Williams, who's so good as Uncle Mac in there?
Yes.
And if you haven't seen beyond this episode, Uncle Mac.
And the sweetest, most generous man.
But I wanted to ask a little bit just about, there's some heavy topics in the series, whether it's sexual abuse, marital infidelity, all sorts of things. What was the creative thinking about the fact that this is in a church? And were there people that might not want to see those things, even though they might exist? I'm sure those questions came up with you and Craig.
Yeah, the whole point is that you go to church because you're not a perfect person. And you go to church because there are dysfunctions. You're going to church because you want to be better. And I think every minister of any congregation understands that intrinsically, unless you're a total narcissist. Also, these issues have been important to me for a very long time. And for the real truth is that for all of the years on the Oprah show, it's the one thing I could not get through to the audience. I did 127 shows on sexual abuse. And I've done every kind of form. I've talked to the victims. I've talked to people who actually were the molesters. I've done it every way you could do it. And what I could never convey is that it's a seduction, process, that many times the reason why children don't speak up is because they have been lured and seduced, and they're in it before they even know what has happened to them, and then they don't have the language to describe what it is that is happening. So this series was just one more time, I'm trying, an attempt to allow people to see how it is a seduction. And by the time you get to the 7th episode, which is his entire episode, you get to see what the process is and how it works, and how you're in it before you even know you're in it, So it's great. It's storytelling. I think it's using stories to enlighten as well as entertain. That's what we were attempting to do.
And that just exploring sexual abuse, to have a story as well that of a young couple and a young man questioning his sexuality, because in our communities, in our African American community, and in many families, it's uncomfortable. And to not go the gratuitous route and graphic and all of that, actually, people have doubts and questions and feelings, and we don't know where it will go. But that too was one of those subjects that I think so important that we're tackling all of them still. So much more.
Both
to
actors have their own
unfold.
ideas about where it should go and how it should unveil itself. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not all in agreement, but we're hearing everybody. But what's interesting, I know this audience knew, they suspected, the moment he said, "Let's go upstairs and watch The Bachelor." It's The Bachelor line, right? I heard you all. I was back there. I said, they're on to it already. Not many men want some chocolate syrup and The Bachelor.
Yep.
Keyword, chocolate syrup and The Bachelor. Fantasy suite.
For Lynn and Keith, talk about as actors stepping into these roles where you're playing husband and wife. You've been married a long time. There's a lot of history. Talk about how you approach that, because you have to have a connection there. And the first day of shooting is this big family scene with this family you've created.
Another great thing about this, we are working with such a group of people, where I don't have to act. I don't want to get caught acting anyway, but I don't have to act. I can look at this woman and know that. I have admired her for years. I don't have to. I don't have to pretend that. I don't have to pretend that she's still a good-looking woman. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to pretend that I have admired that for a long time. I don't have to pretend that hey, it's been a journey making these babies together. That's what and building a family. Now that again, going back into the family business, we have both been in this business a long time. So
From a storefront church.
and so I don't have to pretend when we talk about those things. We talk about things that we know about. And that's the great thing about this, this kind of storytelling is that, as Oprah said, the church is the family business, but every family goes through all of these things, and especially things you don't necessarily want to talk about. Part of the dynamic in our family is stuff that we don't want to talk about.
Don't you love that line when she says, when you asked her, did we do the right thing? And she says, we did the best we could.
I love that. Yeah.
The best we could, and for me, it's the moment. It's really sticking with each other in the moment and the truth, right? So we have this thing when he'll just say May, and I'll say, oh, Bishop. And it's like we can actually play the lines like we're reading each other's thoughts, and I just feel so blessed to be working with. So, honestly, let me ask you something. How many manly men like this are there on television right now? Can we just, so I'm so proud. It's so easy to be, the first lady because he truly is the bishop. When he walks in, there's such elegance and authority. Even if there's a problem, you just feel like he is the head of this family. And it's easy to a little volleys back and forth, darling.
What was so exciting to me is to watch from the back and to hear your reactions in such an intimate and diverse audience, because the real goal for all of us was to use this storytelling vehicle as a way to actually resonate with the human heart. Yes. The whole goal is to connect and allow you to see yourself on screen, to see yourself, to feel the emotions in such a way that you recognize that. Because that's what an aha moment really is. You can't have an aha unless you also already knew it. So the real great reward for me is the way the words and the acting has been received. The fact that it does connect and it does resonate. And you can only do that when you're really making good art. Because art we all relate to and elevates us all, because art is an expression of the truth, And so obviously it comes in many forms, but when you see the truth, you hear the truth, you feel the truth, there's something in it that's just like, yeah. And that's what makes me feel so really great about the entire experience, because the journey to get this done and to have it all come together and actually work. When I started the network, this was the dream, to be able to tell these kinds of stories, this kind of to do this kind of work, this kind of elevated work, really. So I'm really just so pleased to hear your reaction when you didn't know I was in the room. That's good. That's good. Thank you.
Well, just like Lynn and Keith have worked together before, Lynn and Oprah have worked together before.
Way back.
Way back.
In the day.
Way back.
And you touched on this a little bit, but when you do have that scene together finally, talk about that, because it's an intense scene. Again, there's so much history that maybe we don't even know about yet, but you just see these two women come together, and talk about just your approach to that.
So you all haven't seen the end, right? No? Okay. So I won't spoil it for you, but we have a really good scene. And actually, I got to say everything I had been wanting to say all these years about families who neglect abuse, who sit by and let it happen and ignore it and stick their head in the sand. So it was really meaningful for that reason, because I knew that what I was saying was as important as the entertainment value that it carried, because I knew everybody wanted to see us go head to head. But I also wanted to not to just be two women bitching at each other, you know? I wanted to actually have something said that would make an impact. And I am not a person who carries a lot of, anytime I have to do a scene that requires anger, I have to work really hard to pull that up. And what I realized during that scene with Lynn that day is that people who carry around anger, it's very exhausting. It is exhausting to be mad all day. Right? You're right? Yeah. So we did the scene that you don't know about, and we both were just exhausted. I said, "You want to go get a drink or something?" She goes, "I'm going to bed."
Like I would ever turn down a drink with Oprah. Right, please.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? Let's be real. Let me just say that this is a little bit off the show, and I'm going to come right back to it. But we say, Oprah. But I saw the stick-to-itiveness in her love for this story, the way you love it, and the way you didn't give up on it, and the way you keep pushing. And so, as long as I've known her kind of from afar and then closer, and I've been telling everyone, it's been the most inspiring thing, because now, seeing this stick-to-itiveness, I know why she's Oprah. I know why, because she will, if anything isn't going, she just pushes it through. So this moment that these sisters who are rivals, they hadn't had yet, and she understood it. The scene came in and we did it. Now what we get in that, and we're not going to tell you what it is the complexity of families. How grown women of certain ages have not worked it out yet. So this is how we're hoping and praying, and we know that the show will help in wholeness, because you get to see, right? Yeah. I mean, how many times in families I'm not talking to her. Well, and that was important. It was the abuse, but it was also important to see these grown women who haven't figured out how to work it out yet. And that's another mirror. And we have prayerfully, seasons to go to work through this, so we see how families can have some kind of healing or come to some understanding, Mm-hmm. And so all that, and that for me is why it was such a headache, because it's that stuff you don't just carry that day, but it's the stuff you carry for years and years that helps you make choices in your life. And we're dealing with that a lot in this. And, to see mature women going through it, I think that it can really have healing for many.
Yes,
audiences.
and I know in that scene, Lynn, you provoked me. You tried to provoke me. Oh, remember? Oh, yes, you did. You remember? Yeah. Did he tell you to do that? Did the director tell you? Because when you
No, stop it.
Yeah.
I want to know. No. That's what I wanted to ask.
Yes. Did you see that moment? You know that moment when she did that?
No. Listen, I was being timid, Oprah,
No.
and then Clement. No.
And I
It's good.
said,
wait.
I am not going to take the bait.
Oh, but you did.
I'm not going to take the
flash
bait.
in your eye.
Yeah,
No,
I
you-
flashed in the eye, but I thought, what I wanted to say was, no, she didn't just touch me.
But
No, she didn't.
no, but listen, what happened was that I was being very tempted. I was not, because you know how to hit something by the numbers, right? You've been doing things long enough. And I was doing my numbers
went off the
being
book.
safe, right? And I said the same lines. It just didn't have that stage direction in it.
You went off the book.
And look, no, and so the director, a wonderful director, Clement Virgo, he said, "No, you have to let her have it." I said, "But, well, I'm from Louisiana, like, for real though? I mean, for true?" And so I had to take, because we
went
are
there.
all actors. No, I had to say, this is someone who is disturbing my family. These are the things that hurt. I did my where you sublimate, the other thing. I had to work on it because this is my boss. I'm like, oh. And y'all,
You certainly forgot it that day.
I know.
You certainly forgot that. That's
Never
good.
again, my sister.
That's good.
And I got and she was just telling me what and I said, duh. And before I said, oh shit, I have just. Oh my God.
You all know it when you
You'll know it when you see it. It was really complex and hard to achieve.
Now the good news. The good news is we are getting a season 2 of Greenleaf.
Jalapeno.
I know it's probably too early to talk about much, but where are you in scripts being written? Any shooting starting yet?
No
What's the
shooting
timetable?
starting yet. Shooting starts November 9th. Yeah, and scripts are rolling out. That's good. Good stuff happening, yeah.
We're gonna get some audience questions here in a second. Merle, I wanted to ask you. I feel like Gigi's her relationships with everybody are so different. Whether it's to her daughter, to her mother, to her aunt, everybody. How did you approach that? Because you kind of had to do that homework for each relationship, and there's a lot of them in this.
Yeah, I carry what I call the Book of Grace, and I carry it around with my shorthand because sometimes I'll get caught up in something else and I want to come back to it because I've done all of that homework, and I keep. They have little tabs like, oh, this is the Mavis tab, okay, and I refresh all the work that I've done because I've done this really in-depth work so that when I walk in. And, as Miss Lynn said, I don't see my boss. I see the auntie who, when Mama wasn't hearing me, she would come and that was my safe place to go. She would hear me. She would listen to me. And I remember what she said to me. I remember all of those things. So I can, when we walk in and that first wonderful hug, it's like all of that history comes in, and the way that I relate with Mama is a learned behavior. You don't just, somebody who's grown and knows her, who she is, who is an intelligent grown woman, to be able to just let her speak that, she doesn't lash back, she doesn't lip up. She has an understanding with how, okay, this is our old hat, and the same thing with Desiree, the gal who plays my daughter, who is just lovely, isn't she? I love that girl from the very tips of my toes, but it's I've gone a little off script here. It's the work and making sure that I've done every little bit of history and that I can viscerally feel. I can go to any time in my life as Gigi and I can say, oh, this is what it was like when I was a teenager with Daddy. This is what it was like, when I would call him up and I would feel that ache, so that when I'm in the pew in church and Daddy starts saying those things, I don't even have to try. I remember, it's just already there. And and to do all of that exhaustive work, all you have to do is just show up then, and it's a joy. It's a joy to just feel all those things. And Grace is such, her depths are so deep and wide and vast. To have something put like that in your lap as an actor, I get on my knees and I'm just like, Lord, thank you, God. This is what I've been waiting for. This is the thing.
All right, let's get some audience questions. Where's Megan Mack? Megan. Hi, Megan. I'm going to ask for you, though. I just wanted you to say hi. Well, Megan wants to know, she's asking about fear and getting over fear in your career, and you're also accomplished. Were there scenes in this show that scared you, whether the pilot or just any in the first season?
That first table scene, I was terrified. I was so scared.
Really?
Are you kidding me?
Why you? Why? You terrified?
Yes.
It's the first day. It's the first day.
First of all,
It's a
yeah.
13-page scene. And if nothing else, you don't want to be the guy that drops the ball. You know, and it's not about, it's not necessarily about forgetting a line. Because if you forget the line, if you're in the moment, you'll say something that's in keeping, but then again, they're paying you to say the line.
And the
there's
writer was there.
There's only so many times you can go off the script and it be okay. Because after a while, somebody's going to be like,
Right.
"That's not what's it's on the page."
That's not
So,
it. Not that I ever said
ain't
that
the gig.
to him.
You know.
I don't know why. No, but I mean, the first day, the writers there, executives from Lionsgate's there, Oprah's there, everybody from OWN is there. Everybody has this feeling, what are we going to get?
okay, that would be
And I had not heard my ability that I had found her voice. Because this is the day. This is the day where I can walk around my apartment like, yeah, promise me you're not here to sow discord in the fields of my feet. Promise me you're not here to sow. Okay.
Promise me.
This is not Arizona. This is not Arizona. This is not. Now, honestly, I'm not kidding. I don't do that kind of acting. But I don't know with what I have fueled myself with in my soul, in my mind, and actually looking at this table of all these grown children I have, that how it's gonna come out. Because when you have buried your child, so you don't know. So I was so scared. And Craig gave me some changes and everything. It was just,
At the last minute, yeah.
Yeah, no, but they were good.
Okay.
They were good ones. They were good ones.
It worked. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
But
There were
there's
some takes
always
where
fear
it was,
trying to
it was so
find the
fierce.
truth.
Yeah.
Huh?
I say there were some takes where it was so fierce. I was just like, yes, yes,
They didn't
yes.
choose those though. They chose the more vulnerable.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's good though.
Vulnerable's good.
Yeah, it's
Vul-
good.
Yes.
All right, we have a question from Deirdre M. Deirdre, there she is. Which character in Greenleaf do you feel the most empathy for, and why? Whether it's your own or somebody else's.
That's interesting question.
Deirdre, you have stopped the. Deirdre, where are you? Really good, Deirdre. Okay.
And it could be your own, or it could be somebody else that you encountered in the show.
I think, of course, Grace is my character, and I have great empathy for her. But I have a lot of empathy for Mavis. She's an outcast. She's in the town. She's in the same town as her family, and yet she doesn't. She can't connect with them, and whatever that rift is, the specifics of how that exactly happened, it has to be pretty painful. I can't imagine, living in the same vicinity as my family and not being able to knock on the door.
Upon reading, I felt, that this is my family. In one form or another, I felt something for every single one of them. Especially felt. I mean, I understood something about Bishop because I have girls, and to have this relationship. I mean, one of the things that I've always said to my wife that I hope no one ever tries to abuse my kids. I don't know what that would make me be. We find out. You have reactions as a man, as a father. What are those things that goes through your head, that and what are your knee-jerk reactions? It was surprising to me to find out that you can be in the household and be unaware of what goes on. But I also, one of the things I understand about him is a kind of selectivity in how you choose to look at the world, and you can be looking right at the forest and not see a tree, because that's not what you're choosing to look at deliberately, and you will ask the questions that will get the answer and the responses that you want. Because you don't ask questions to the things that you don't want to know.
Oh, no.
You better preach, Bishop. You better preach.
Well, the character that I have the most empathy with, that's a kind of dangerous. It's dangerous for an actor, I think, to even answer that, right? Because it's all about the truth of the moment for me. So I never think of it that way. If there's empathy in the moment of the demands of that scene, but I can't make a sweeping, this character I have the most empathy for, because I can't play that unless that's what there is to be played. But after seeing the entire season and being separated from Lady Mae right now, and being able, because I talk about her as she, when she does this, because it's not me, right? As an audience member, I would say that my baby girl, played by Deborah Joy Winans, because her situation is not of her making. She needs to be heard. That feeling of needing to be heard, people to see you. I find objectively as an audience member, that's really touches my heart, and then what I know she's going through. But it's really, if I think of too much more other than what Lady Mae wants and what she is, then I might get too, I can't give into it until it's time to give into the empathy. I focus more on what we're hiding, what we're not allowing ourselves, to go there yet. But yes, the baby girl, I think, is just going through some circumstances that are not of her making at all. And I felt so, tender in that. What did you? When she said, just why can't I?
Yes, I saw you.
You saw me what?
I
Me?
saw you feeling tender towards her.
Oh,
Yes. Yes.
Oprah, who would you say?
I would say I would have to agree with Keith. For me, it is these are my children. All my children. This is my project. This feels like a gift, to be at this stage in my life, having had, such wonderful success with the Oprah show, starting the network, having, not knowing what the hell I was doing in the beginning, and trying to figure it out and bringing in the right people and getting to this point. It feels like a wonderful new way to create expression. So I have great empathy for all the characters. I have empathy for the house. I just love the house. I love the Greenleaf mansion. I love everything about it. But if you were just, who do I really am I most interested in seeing what happens to him as a character is the Kevin character, because I think that as Lynn was speaking of earlier, in the African American community, and I've done so many shows on families torn apart because you can't accept somebody because of their sexuality. We used to do coming out day on the Oprah show, where young kids would come to my show and want to announce that they were coming out to their family. And I'd say, you have to call your mama first. You can't come on the show. You can't surprise your mama pass out in the living room. So this very idea of people still holding shame and carrying shame because of who they are, I want us to be able to say something about that in a really big, open, and profound way. So I have great empathy for Kevin and this burden he carries, and how that is going to show up in the world for him, and how we can resolve that so that people can see that you can love your family and love your wife and have children and also have feelings. You can. So anyway, I'm curious to see how that's going to work out.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much all for being here. Thanks to everybody here for your great questions. Thank you so much.